The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2022 Rocket Mortgage Classic DraftKings picks, preview, finalized bets, the weather report, and the live chat. As always, you want to jump to a certain spot? Then I assure you, the time codes after the live is finished, we'll have that. Remember to smash the like button, sub to the newsletter down in the description, sub to Mayo Media Network, and please leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That would most definitely help. Tambo, what's up?
What's up? We're here. It's earlier this week, but it's exciting. It's a big week ahead, so happy to get into it. It's a stronger field than last week also, so see how she goes.
So I'm my entire DraftKings life right now over the next 3 weeks is just rooting for you to win $1 million.
I appreciate that. That's definitely what I'm looking forward to doing. Last week was good. 69th place, nice. A good number there, and it was good enough for mindset that I could beat. That beats the 40 of 150 I need this week. So as long as I can do at least the same as I did last week with that lineup, I should be in pretty good shape and get down to Memphis and get after that milli.
If this just turns out to be a regular week, nothing like if we look at cut sweats on Friday and it's 35%, 6 of 6, that's probably not going to be a good thing. But I would imagine that a good 5 of 6 will be top 30%.
Yeah, I think so for sure. Just the way it shakes out. I mean, I again, too, the other thing was last week was sort of a cash game style, which differs of opinions on that based on the fact that some people don't like that you have to play that when you want a GPP in. When you kind of think about it, the World Championship, it's, you're crowning the world champion. Now they play a cash style. Now they play sort of a top 30%, and then you go with the best players in the world in Memphis. So I don't hate it completely, but I'm excited for this week. I'm definitely going to look to build a little bit more leverage in just in case it's a 5 of 6. 4 or 6, whatever, where you actually could still sneak into a top 30%.
I'll have my final wagers. Actually, no, I want to stick on the Fantasy Golf World Championships for a second. I just find it very intriguing as someone who I had 2 second-place finishes this year. Not that I tried to play in any of the big qualifiers, but the $90 ones, the $125 ones. It just sucks I didn't get in. I'd like to be in one day. So I was in the MMA one once and came dead last in round 1. I was well, it was a good run. Hey, that was nice.
But you made it, and that's
I made it. I got my money out of it, so that was nice.
Yeah, I personally love it. I was thinking about this and talking to a buddy about it the other day, what's the biggest one? Because if you win a major, if you win the Millie Maker at one of the majors, that to me feels like a major in golf if you're comparing sort of professional sports of any kind to professional DFS. And the one thing I will say, the more we thought about it was this is the biggest event. Because I'll tell you why. When you make it through to round 3 and you win the $1 million, you get a Tournament of Champions seat, which is the biggest thing of the season. Any Millie Maker winner gets one. But the World Championship winners get the automatic bye right into the final. They will get a shot at another $1 million on top of the $1 million they won. They're already automatically in. The other ones, if you won the Mega Millie at the PGA Championship, you get a seat to the Tournament of Champions, but you do have to play through to get to the final 25 or 30 or whatever it is to play for that next million. There's still a good prize that goes with it, but you already won $1 million usually. So that makes this the biggest one for me. I really do think it's special, and I definitely want to get the title for sure.
No, 100%. Would you come in King of the Beach? Second. So You're owed one.
I've got third at the King of the Beach back in 2017. I've got the second place most recently. So I need the first place trophy. Getting it from golf would be special. So I'm definitely looking forward to this week.
Well, if you can't play in the Fantasy Golf World Championships, if you didn't qualify, you can play in the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. Link is available down in the description. It's almost full. And if you miss out on the PME DraftKings League, play in the Fantasy Golf Degenerates Listeners League. You can find that up on Tambo and Kenny's Twitter feed right now. Is it in the description of the show? Or
it is, yeah.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, it's out there.
So just go download Fantasy Golf Degenerates and you'll be fine on that front. Someone did get 15 seats through, though.
They did. Peter Gibbons.
That's crazy.
Yeah, very sharp guy. And yeah, he played unique lineups too. There was no dupes that I saw, but he would play one-offs, so one unique. So if it was Wyndham Clark last week in one lineup, he would just simply flip it to Matthew Neesmith for the same price in the next lineup. He got them all through. So it could be what's supposed to be a 40-person live final. It's 40-seat live final, don't forget. So it could end up being 10 people at the event or 12 people, but it's going to be fun no matter what. Hopefully, like I said, have a good run this week and find myself there.
Bets for the week at the Rocket Mortgage and Live, which starts on Friday this week. In case your bets are all scummed by Thursday afternoon, you can reinvest into Live or Round 2 DraftKings Showdown. Either way, Homa 27, Cam Davis, like we talked about last week. 50 to 1, just to get the better number, because we knew it wouldn't be. 33 is the best I can find. I think you can boost that up to 35 either way. I bet Alex Smalley at 66 with 5 places. He's dropped to 70, so it's a bad number. Chris Gotterup, 75 to 1, because I'm still doing that fun with 5 places. Then I went James Hahn, Lee Hodges, and Chesson Hadley, 125, 140, 160, all with 5 places. Bryson and Henny Duplessis on the Live Tour, 11, and Henny is with 5 places at 45 to 1. And then I played the Homa Bryson double, 366 to 1. Let's have it.
Let's go. I got it. I took that one too. Because I didn't bet Bryson straight up. I know a lot of people are doing that this week at the Live, but I was like, if I can get Homa with that, it's like a way to get after it. And I like Homa this week, so I bet that one for sure.
Might have to go Bryson Gotterup too.
Oh yeah, you can just double it. Yeah, you're right.
I'll just tell.
I bet the Gotterup with you too. I got him at 75. And then one I added, and it's down to 60 now, but Matt Kuchar at 80. I think that's a sneaky play this week and bet. So we'll talk about him later, but I did add that one as well.
I am considering adding one more name, and the name is Webb to the card, just to try to get in early on Webb maybe becoming Webb again, because this is a perfect Webb course.
Well, you need to bet the each way for sure, because you know how it works exactly. Where are we going next week? Wyndham. What's going to happen there? So you know he's going to come like top 8 this week and get all the hype in on the Wyndham next week. Your real hope would be that he misses the cut here and people say he's dead, and then he comes back alive next week at a better number. But something's going to happen with Webb over these next 2 weeks.
One and done. I got Homa. Jeff has Nick Hardy, and Cust, he did not reveal his pick on yesterday's show, is taking Cameron Young is the most cursed player for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Did you look at the weather at all?
I did look at it a little bit. Right now, it looks pretty clean, actually. Again, the wind shows a little bit like leaning to Thursday morning as being decent, but I don't see anything enough yet. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Typically, the area doesn't, lean to that. Like, maybe for showdown, first round leaders, I always like the morning anyway, because if there's any, overnight sort of dew, if you will, on the greens and that sort of stuff, setting up on the freshest greens of the day. I always believe in that a little bit, but we have to see what it looks like for Friday as well. And I don't see any of that as of now.
I think it's just too early right now, because we had to bump this up a day. I'm going away, and you were kind enough to be able to do this a day early. That the weather, just go to the Windfinder Tower. I'll have that in the newsletter on Wednesday evening if you really want to double down on that. Or you can just go search it yourself. Use windfinder.com. What station are you using? It's
funny you say that. We talked about the most cursed player, Cameron Young. The airport that people are using next is Coleman Young International Airport, and that's the one that's looking to be the closest. So if you look at that, you could see Thursday morning right now is like 7 to 9, and then in the afternoon it picks up to like 14, 15. Friday looks pretty clean across the board, so I don't really see anything. Like you said, it's early still, but nothing leaning into it that really gets me excited about a weather edge or anything there.
Let's see. I just threw it into the live chat if people are looking for it and want to bookmark that for later in the week. Trying to help you out over here, or maybe it'll be a hindrance. Who knows? DraftKings. In terms of ownership, where do you think like the top 3 are going for? Because it's still earlier in the week to see this come out. It feels like Cantlay, Cam Young, and Homa at the top. Like everyone at the top is going to be owned, but those 3 in particular stand out to me. Yeah,
it feels like Finau Willie Z will be down a little bit than what we're used to. We'll have to see how projection sites and stuff shake them all out. But Cam Young versus Homa is the conversation right now. I mean, the public perception is Cameron Young is going to be 20%. Homa is the guy there.
I agree. Cameron Young will probably be 20%. I just think Homa is going to be like 25%.
Yeah, I don't know who will. I feel like I definitely could agree Homa might end out more, but if it might be like 18 Cameron Young, 21 Homa, or 20 Homa. The guys I think you got to look at is down in the 8K range. You got Davis Riley there. People are ready to go back to him, no problem. Mav McNeely, 8,800, looks to be pretty popular in that 8K range. And then I haven't heard it yet, and the numbers still don't show it heavily yet, but I think it's going to be crazy, especially in something like the tournament that I'm in, but in higher stakes, is Chris Kirk at 7,800. He just pops off the board like, that range, and people don't love Siwoo or, Stallings will pull a little bit.
Stallings is the one right now, fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off. By the way, to go use all the stats, all the tools, all the ownerships, the simulations, but he is showing as a higher own right now. And again, this is Tuesday afternoon. This all changes. So it would be Hubbard at 8,000, Kirk, Stallings, Cooch is drawing a bit of interest, Pendrith, and Gotterup like every week.
Yeah, Gotterup for sure. Steele, if people want to go back to the well, he was heavily owned at 8,300 last week. Did not come through, but I could see now down to 7,500. People could go there, but I would have bet a lot of money even yesterday. I don't care how earlier in the week that Kirk comes in way higher than Stallings. I get the Stallings love and where people are thinking that's coming from, but I personally don't see it. And I know the higher stakes you go, Kirk will be a lot higher than Stallings. I can tell that already.
Well, I gave you like how I just did like a first run through without using any stats, anything. I just picked 6 guys. Like, here's where I want to start. Here's who I want at the bottom. And like, I didn't really have the middle figured out all that much. And I do think that the best 2 plays from the top are, we'll talk about Finau in a second, but I think that Cantlay Homa is a great start. Not only a great start, I think it's going to be a very popular start. And how can you make that work? If you didn't want to do that, I would have no problem going Homa Cam Davis instead. Then it really does open you up, and I think that's unique enough. Despite those 2 guys being relatively high owned, I just don't think that people will start with Homa.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'll say a few things actually. Up top, right away. First of all, last week, Sungjae Finau worked, and it can definitely work again. Last week, I think there was 7 guys above 9K. This week, there's only 9. You can easily do it. When we get to the 7Ks, you'll see why. You can fit 2 of those. If you like Cantlay Young, you can build those lineups, especially if you talked about Cantlay Homa lineups. You're just putting Young in for $200 more. You can easily find that. The other thing I think, Pat, is that see what you think, but like Young up to Cantlay, pick your poison. Someone's going to pick a guy up here. But then I think they drop down to the 8K range typically because there is that Mav, Theegala, Riley, all those guys in there where you could put 2 of them and still get 3 7K guys in your lineup and feel pretty good about it. So I see those as the more common builds right now. I think if you just went all 9K guys, that would be a unique build, meaning 2 or 3 9K guys to start your lineup. It could be 2-2-2. It could be 3 9s, 3 7s. Like there's different ways to go about it, but I definitely see that as a possibility this week.
What do you make of Kisner and Denny at 91 and 89? Are they on your radar? Because they fit what I want to do at this course.
Yeah.
And I think that other people see that. But I looked at their betting odds. I was like, no fucking thanks on that. But these DraftKings prices are a bit more reasonable, I think.
I was just going to say that. But even still, that's what's causing them to go overlooked. As much as you may hear them mentioned, we do this every week. But when you go up in the 9Ks and you've got Homa, Davis, there's a little love for Adam Scott this week, strength of field stuff. Think about the Wyndham last year when he came in second because he missed the 4-footer or whatever at the end. In strength of field, it's the easiest field he plays in all year. The other thing is when you go below, I already talked about it, but Mav, Theegala, and Riley. But I was saying to Paul, actually pre-show, we were just outside chatting it up.
Keegan? Was he selling you on Keegan?
Selling me against Keegan.
Oh, against Keegan.
Well, it's kind of an interesting concept here when you think about it. I know that's not Paul's style, but when you think about this factor, like McCarthy, what do we know about him?
Putts.
Best putter in the world. Exactly. Like, it's just insane. But what ends up happening is someone may go to Keegan because of ownership and his top 20 odds and things like that, but you're looking for him to find a putter. And
in fairness, 17th in this field over the past 24 rounds on the greens.
Yeah, and it's fine. I think I don't discount him. I think he's a very good play for like large field tournaments. I'm talking when you're going for safety though. Nobody's going to play McCarthy because they expect him. Well, what if he doesn't putt like that? Well, his 50 percentile of a putting week is what you're looking for a guy like Keegan for $300 more to be able to find. What's more likely to happen in your opinion? And also don't forget all the 4 and 5, the 5 to 10 footers you're going to have this week. You'll feel pretty good if you got a guy like McCarthy staring those down. So I do have some interest, and he's at naturally contrarian being at the top of the 8K range and not in that 3-person bubble right there in the middle with Theegala, Riley, and Mav.
Denny McCarthy, number 1 in putting, number 1 from 5 to 10 feet. The biggest discrepancy, if you just looked at putting overall, and this is over the past 24 rounds, Cameron Young is 93rd in the field in strokes gained putting. He's 6th, 5 to 10 feet. Mm-hmm. And when I did the show with Degula, that is one of the stickier ranges for putting is that 5 to 10, 10 to 5. Now, I'd probably want to increase my sample if I really wanted to dig into it. More than 24 rounds, maybe look at past 75 rounds, 100 rounds. But I just thought that was a very interesting discrepancy. Like Zalatoris sucks on the greens. He also sucks from 5 to 10 feet. There's not like a gap there for some reason. But if you kind of look at it the other way,
Cantlay is good from there too, I think. Cantlay
is 9th in the field.
Decent,
Homa is 2nd. McCarthy is 1st. Then you have like Woodland, Hubbard, Siwoo. They're all inside the top 20 as well.
Yeah, and so this is, I guess my point would be a way to get naturally unique this week where it will feel a little bit off-putting because like Woodland, Siwoo, like you're not feeling the safest, but obviously you know their names for a reason. They're definitely good golfers. And you think about it, if you just find guys that can putt and they don't putt as good as they normally do, they probably are still making the cut and finding their way through. And then you can always get those streaks. And that's how you get the DK scoring where even if they finish 30th, they might finish in the top 20th, top 20 or better for their DraftKings scoring. And again, you'll need somebody to come through, but a lot of those guys are value plays too that you mentioned down at the bottom that you can fit in.
Yeah, guys who are just like trash from 5 to 10 feet, Theegala is awful. So is Chris Kirk. So is Scott Stallings from that range.
And Kirk and Stallings will for sure get some love. We just talked about that, comparing the two of them. And then also Theegala, he's there with McNeely and Riley, but he's still getting talked up because if you think about Theegala, everyone loved him last week at $9,800. Now he drops $1,100, and there isn't the water scenario that we had last week for him to worry about as much, at least, or even close. So I think that's why people are still, just like I said, looking to go to pick a guy up top, pick a couple of these 8K guys, and then drop down to the 7s where everyone's going to land, because the 6K range has more names than last week, but not a lot of names overall.
No, just looking at the ownership concentrating at the bottom of the 7s. I mentioned Goddard up at 74, Svensson at 72, Callum Tarrant at 71, and like Glick. People are going back to him, and hey, you went to him last week. It paid off.
Maybe Wyndham Clark. I think people like the bomber angle, if you will, as well as...
Let's talk about the bomber angle, because I know that you and Paul were talking about it. I picked you up today, so we were talking about it in the car on the way over.
Yeah.
It's just because Bryson won here, people just assume it's a bomber's track. Now, there's two things that goes into it. I think you can bomb and gadge this place, but I don't think you need to at the same time. Like, there's a reason Nate Lashley also won here. And just look at the other, like, jabronis who were right by, like, Wolf was there.
It was Bryson Wolf, but if you go to the rest of that leaderboard, it dropped off from the bomber angle, like you said.
Yeah, it's Ryan Armour and those type of guys. Brian Stewart.
Yeah. Solid approach games, strong wedge games, guys that can putt.
Can you putt?
You basically exactly that. So one thing I'll take away, because I literally just recorded the show with Kenny last night and already circled back on it, so it's more of a first look and just, able to go back and say, I think that maybe I was wrong on that. Just, looking at it from what I did more of a deep dive this morning was like, it is still true. Don't get me wrong. But like I always say this line, Pat, where I'm like, it's, obviously if you look at the numbers from this result, the last 3 years, the best putters were at the top of the leaderboard. That's a lot of tournaments you could say that for. But the point is, it's not always the best putters like the Denny McCarthy's that find their way into the best putting week that get themselves to the top of that leaderboard. But I will say, the further I went back and more I dug deep into it and looked at it, it actually was
those guys,
the best putters that were finding their way to the top of the board. And I think it goes to my McCarthy point earlier, why I leaned on him a little at the top of the show, was that if you can just find the guy that even if he has his 50 percentile week, but he's usually a putting legend, he's still finding his way through the cut. There's just not a lot of ways to get into trouble here. And then they find those streaks for you. They find that long eagle putt where you're like, this guy runs so good. No, he's just a good putter. It just continues to happen. It's not like anything that's too crazy here.
Someone named Mark Anderson was in 8th place last year.
I like Mark Andrews. If we're talking football, we're getting there, but...
we're not quite there yet, but
no,
Mark, Mr. Anderson. Who was the guy that I used to play all the time? Chris Baker, the birdie maker.
Yes.
I don't know what happened to him. He may have retired from golf or something like that.
Chris Nagel, the Monday Cuer, is now then taking over.
Did he make the cut last week?
I don't even remember, but I know he cued again on Monday. He's into this field now.
He's good.
It's insane. Well, he's good at Monday cues. That's the funny part.
He made the cut at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, he's probably fine. I'm just saying it's always funny when someone's like, oh, this guy made a Monday cue and made 6 birdies and an eagle. I'm like, and this course doesn't compare, but they'll do it on weeks where it's like a tougher course. And I'm like, well, they're not going to be doing that at this course. That's just the cue course that they played. So, funny, people always looking for that diamond in the rough, but he's definitely played some better golf.
If we drop down to the 6s, what are you seeing in terms of where people want, like, is there anyone who's actually popular in the 6s?
Not really. Like Hadley stands out some because people are mentioning him. I know Kenny's looking at him even in cash. Guys are talking about it 6,900.
I like him. I think he's a good play this week.
He's been playing great. Hard to disagree. So I get you there. But other than that, usually I delete the list before I come on, but we started earlier this week. I kept all of them in. There's nobody that I really have over 2 or 3% besides Hadley. Lipsky can always get a little late love. This is, again, we're Tuesday. I'm talking steam by Wednesday, just from what I know. Sepp Straka, great course history here. 2 out of the 3 years. I think it was an 8th and 11th. So could he pick up steam?
Even to look at some of the guys, I would be kind of wary about the course history guys. Because like sometimes you'll see like miscut first. Like this one's just all over the place.
Oh, yeah, for sure. JJ Spawn was another example. I think he's another course history guy that, again, can score and go low. And then projections a little bit like the Tyler Duncans and Russell Knox types, where they're just their names that you see. Tyler Duncan, what did he do on Sunday? I think he made 2 eagles to finish out his tournament last week. So I can see it. I get it. And I guess this is one of the things I ended up saying it to you on the show last week, and it bared out very well besides Piercy, who happened to be 6,900. But remember I said on the show, I was like, honestly, I can't do it. I have a hard time with restraining myself from it. But I said, you probably should just avoid the entire 6K range when you have like 50 guys in the 7K range, the way pricing is set up. You could just avoid them all, but it's tough because you're like, well, but I could make a case for this guy. And guess what? Nobody made the case for Piercy. He was 0.3% owned, ended up doing well for himself, even with the meltdown, but like scoring wise. But I'm just saying nobody was on him. So it was hard to get the Piercy lineups right, even if you did that. So I could see it again this week where you just completely fade the 6K range, even though some of them look really good on paper.
Trying to find Thorbjorn's in here.
71, I think.
Yeah, he's in the field.
4th at the Travelers.
Made the cut at the U.S. Open. Yeah. I mean, we're playing Goddard. Why aren't we playing Thorbjornsen?
I think it's a different level of talent, personally. But
I mean, I have literally no idea if there is. Thorbjornsen could be way better for all I know.
Yeah, I don't think he's better than the Haskins Award winner, Chris Goddard. But I also don't think Chris Goddard is as good as
Patrick Rogers win the Haskins Award. That guy's trash.
We're talking recent, and look at the form that Goddard. I mean, Goddard even squeezed to make the cut for everybody last week, so I think people are okay with him. And then here you think he can get into less trouble. All that we bet him at 75-1 for a reason. I'm not the biggest stand for this guy. I don't care about him that much this week. We'll see what his ownership comes in, but I could see at 7,400 why people are going there instead.
Henley, I can't quite figure out. This is finally the time where people are like, everyone's off of Henley now.
Right.
Like, he's awful. He's okay. $8,200. He's a part of that mix of players that I feel like it's a dead zone for ownership. Mm-hmm. People own Tringali, Hadwin and Webb will be like, but then we hit it on like Siwoo, Woodland, Henley. Those guys feel like good plays to me. I don't know if they're all good plays, but like one of them feels like they're going to be in a winning lineup.
So I'm going to tie two together, but it starts with Henley. Henley at 8,200 and your boy Luke List at 7,200.
I can't play List here. I just can't.
Okay, but this is why I'm bringing it up. I wanted to have the discussion with you because you're a Luke List guy, and it ties into Henley. He's the same example here. It's a Fantasy National thing too. But if you go last week, do you remember the guy? He was 7,100 that everyone was like, he pops like crazy. He's done nothing forever, and then he ended up crushing last week.
Scott Piercy?
It was actually Tom Hoagie.
Oh yes.
But remember last week, we were like, but it just felt so bad to click that button. But you were like, everything says play Tom Hoagie, even though he's been playing like shit.
Even though I'm not going to do it, it says to do it.
It says to do it. This week, I can't decide who it is. Maybe it's both, but it's Henley and List. They both show up on the stats. They both seem like they could fit it, but they both have been doing really nothing that would make you want to play them. Like, List even has good course comps in the past where some of the stuff that ties together that makes sense. And I don't know. Henley looks really good on paper, but those two I struggle with because, like you said, I don't think they're going to be owned, though. Like, Henley at 82, dead zone, go down to 72 List. I'm showing him pretty low right now, maybe 7 or 8% if he gets there. So we'll see what the week brings, but what do you think?
I would say that the difference would be I know List can't putt.
That is true.
So that's a problem right off the hop at a putting contest. At least with Henley, like, he's not putting well at the moment, but historically, like, he's not a terrible putter. Mm-hmm. So if he just kind of heats up, Piercy's hot putting week came out of nowhere because he generally just sucks on the greens. And then he started towards the back nine on Sunday. But with Henley, I could see him just having like getting 2 or 3 strokes putting, and then he just does what he normally does, and he's all over it.
He might crash. He might just go off.
It would just be funny because people have been chasing the Henley stats. This will finally be the week like optimizers aren't on him or anything. Although they might be because I'm still looking over the past 24 rounds. He's 6th in approach, 3rd from 125 to 150. He missed the playoff last year at the Wyndham by a stroke at another Donald Gross course. So I like Henley. I'm going to be playing Henley, but I think I want to throw Hadwin and Webb into this mix too because I just feel more comfortable with them, as I think a lot of people do. But I think it's a nice week to go back to those guys.
Hadwin to me feels really good, right? Just from that, again, a couple of reasons. I talk about it from both perspectives. I think if you look at the stats, you're going to find nothing. There's basically nothing you won't like. It all looks really good across the board.
The approach has been bad.
It's been bad, but it's, again, if you take it over even if the last 50 rounds or over the last 6 months, it still looks pretty good on paper. So it's kind of like the Henley example where could it show up for this week? Yes. And so I could say that. But the bigger thing for me with him is that you're squeezed, right? Because you've got Thigala, Mav, Riley above him. Even I think people would go back to Tringali before Hadwin. And the other thing, I'm not sure if you saw this, but the bogey-free round on Sunday out of Hadwin where he birdied like 6 of the last 9 holes to just put it together an absolutely incredible round 4. I like that momentum coming in, and now he'll see a lot less barriers in front of him when he's, if he can do that on Sunday pins at the round last week, I feel like he'll come in a little bit better, and I just don't think people go there. So at 8,400, he can get some steam. I just mean in the sense he's not going to be a 20% guy at 8,400, I don't think.
I don't see a scenario where Riley and Tringali aren't higher owned than Hadwin.
And McNeely.
And McNeely.
Right. So
And
again,
probably
it's-
Denny, too.
It's still math. The money, it's still, the ownership has to go somewhere, and it can't go to everyone. So everyone wants to make a case, but this guy. If Hadwin's 12 or 15, 12 to 13%, somewhere in that range, under 15, I think it's still decent to keep an eye on him here because I think he can make some sense.
Circling back up to the top, we're Cantlay or Finau?
Cantlay.
Finau is going to be like half the ownership.
It looks like it, especially in higher stakes and stuff like I'm in. Some might play both again. I don't know. Like Finau is not the type to mess around. I think if he's going to play here, which it looks like he is, he didn't withdraw or anything at least yet, that he's just going to play it out and see if he can continue the form and keep it rolling. So expect him to make the cut. What do you make of it from there? I mean, last week he was playing well. He still shot a nice Sunday round and had a guy implode on top of it, so it worked out for him in that sense. But he played well too. So I don't know. The bigger question is like with Zalatoris right below him.
Zalatoris, no. Cam Young, no. Homa and Davis, yes.
But I'm saying that from the original question. I think Cantlay's the obvious one. We know what Cantlay is this week. He's the guy getting the ownership. He's the top price, but it's not too expensive. It works. The question is, what do you think the ownership is between Finau and Zalatoris? Because that's where the decision lies. Last week it was tougher, by the way, because last week was Hideki.
I got it wrong last week.
Yeah,
I will
too.
tell you that right now.
I played Hideki.
All I had to do was play him, and I win tons of money.
I played him in the lineup that got me through, but I'm saying I played Hideki in large field because like if he's ready to go, you'd expect it to be there. He was clearly not ready to go, and then he said his wrist was not ready to go and bailed after that Tin Cup performance on hole 9 there. So, but I do think it's interesting to decide between Finau and Zalatoris ownership because right now I've got them pretty even at like 15% each, 16% maybe for Willie Z. I don't know. I can see Willie Z getting more. People don't go back to the winner previous week.
I would say that they're both like 12 to 14.
Yeah, maybe they are. Maybe
like
even lower.
they just get squeezed out by everyone else because everyone wants to start with Cantlay, and then they feel like those guys are a bit too expensive. Then they go to Cam Young, Homa, or Davis. And then you have like your Adam Scott, Keegan, Kisner, Denny tier.
They all pick up some, but it's not enough to really care about.
Would you go Denny or Kisner?
I like Denny.
Okay. I'll throw Denny in.
I definitely like Denny more.
Yeah,
it is a Kisner setup. Like I get why people would go to him, and again, the guy can putt, so it makes perfect sense. Maybe you play them both. Sometimes when there's those hard decisions of should I play this guy or that guy, the answer sometimes is play both. But it's hard to click those two into a lineup together. At least for me, it's something that matters. So I prefer Denny there for sure.
I think I like starting Cantlay. Cantlay Homa is my favorite start. I don't think I'm going to be alone.
No, but I was going to say that earlier. You just reminded me of it. You weren't. What was it at the Open? It was Rory Cam Smith. We bet on that, by the way.
Yeah, we did, and you won.
But the funny side of that is that actually did turn out to be the best start.
Really? The guy who came first and third?
Correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, like we did that beforehand, obviously. So I'm saying, like, as much as it seemed bad on the Wednesday show that week of like, yeah, but that'll be too popular.
And it was the right move.
It didn't matter. It was the right move. So if Cantlay Homa is the best move this week, then you're in good shape to start it off. And there's a lot of guys in that 7K range that you can round it out with, or upper 6K if you want to go there.
Well, one thing that I like about this start is I think I get off of the chalky guys that I really don't want to play. Like I could be talked into playing Stallings. I get it. I don't want to play him. Does anyone want to play Scott Stallings? Really? Or is it just, hey, the numbers look really good for Scott Stallings. Let's click him. I don't want to play him. And if I start Homa Cantlay, I'm not going to play Scott Stallings. He's just not going to fit.
Okay. Did you check? What's the average? I didn't pull it up right now.
74.
Okay, that's kind of perfect because the other side of it is all those AK guys. You just dump, even though like one of them can come through. The point is what I always say about that is like, there's FOMO there because you're like, well, then I'm not playing Mav, Riley, Orthigall, or any of those guys that I like. But what if 4 of them bust and only one of them comes through? You avoided that landmine for a majority of your lineups, and maybe your 6K or 7K guys at the bottom come through much better for you. So, yeah, I got no problem with that start to a build at all.
That makes Goddard the very logical next person in. And if you're just playing this off ownerships, you have like Wyndham Clark down there.
You got a bunch. Tom Kim is 76.
Tom Kim, Callum Tarrant, Svensson, like all those guys will be popular within that sort of build. And it's not just exclusive to Homa and Cantlay. If you have Cantlay and Young, or Young and Finau, or whoever it might be, like the double up top, I think these are the logical guys you go to.
Yeah.
Do you think that will be more popular, like Cantlay Homa, Cantlay Young, Cantlay Cam Davis, although I'm not seeing the Cam Davis ownership, or Cantlay Riley Tringali?
Cantlay 2 AK guys, to me, is the most popular. Because
McNeely,
you still end up on the decision of those same 7 guys we just talked about, But I think that build, because people can't leave Mav, Thigala, Riley, Tringali, go back to the well there, they can't completely ignore that. You can't really go Cantlay, Homa, McNeely comfortable. You can do it, I'm saying, but most people aren't going to be comfortable with that build. So I think it's going to be Cantlay, 2 8K guys, and 3 7s, versus if you went, like you said, you could start with Homa and get a 9K, 2 8Ks, and 2 7s. That would be different. You go 3 9Ks and still skip the 8K chalk and drop down, or you could do what you said and go Cantlay, Homa, and then drop down from there, right?
You know, David Skins has made 2 cuts in a row.
$6,100, I know.
Gained 6.5 strokes on approach last week. And he either putts really well or really poorly. He seemingly has no in-between type weeks. He lost 3.5 strokes. Last week, the 3M at the Purpose Hole, he gained 5.
Yeah.
Very good with his wedges as well.
What was I going to say? You could include him in your large field stuff. I got no problem with that. But I really, like I said, I think you're better off to avoid. You're already hoping out of the gate that it works for that. You're hoping, you get a different roster construction, which is nice. That's unique. But then you need the other guys to come through with them. Like it's like we talk about all the time, building a parlay for sports betting. You're adding more things to your parlay that way, that you need more to happen than you do to just build a good lineup.
McNeely, Cantlay, Riley. Let's just presume that's a very popular 3-person start.
Yes.
You can go Kirk and Hadley, and then you still have $7,200 left. That seems like a very common lineup.
So I said to me, it's the most common build, and not just because of the 7K guys that you're expecting to be in at the bottom. It's just, it looks really awesome on paper when you see that build. You have Cantlay, Mav, and Riley. That's 3 guys you assume can win. It's the conversation too, Pat, is pretty simple. It's that, Willie Z and Cam Young getting their first win, but they cost 10-4 and 10-1. Basically, really tough to play them unless you just played them together and skipped out on Cantlay Finau and did something crazy like that. I wouldn't hate, but if you are thinking of it that way, people are saying, well, what's stopping Riley, Thigala, Mav from going and getting their first W on tour? This is the spot for them too, so it's just an easier way to fit them into your build.
Good Lord. Luke Guthrie's in this field.
The field is pretty bad below, Pat. I also saw who withdrew. Michael Kim. So there is no Corn Ferry Tour event this week, but he's building up, saving his energy for the stretch that he needs to go on to get in and secure his card and get final 25. Guess who got in the field? Robert Garrigus, the same guy that withdrew from fatigue last week. So he's back up. He's got his energy back. He's ready to go.
Yeah, we had the week off. It was fine. I mean, should we? I know the guy brought it up in the chat last week, but should we just be playing Sung You'll Know?
I don't know.
Dude can't drive the ball for shit. Like, it's bad. He lost 6. And the 3M's a weird one because you drive into the water once or twice and your numbers are wildly skewed. But this is a pretty constant theme for him. Just losing 3 strokes at tournament driving. But he's gained 4.8, 5.2 on approach. He's putting well. He's gained putting each of the past 5 weeks. He's gained around the green each of the past 6 weeks. He's made 4 cuts in a row. He's like $6,200. That's not bad. He's the dead min. He's 6,000.
Stone min. They won't price him up. That's the difference. But
he is legitimately not a bad play.
I like Malnati for $600 more.
For $600, like that's $600. Like that's a lot you can do with a lineup.
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it does.
$600.
Yeah, it does. Let's see.
There's no difference.
Let's see here. Let's throw Sung You'll Know in a lineup.
Kirk Svensson. No, but you do the math. It's $600. Kirk Svensson. Who cares?
I think that's a big. I think going from Svensson up to Kirk is a big difference in a lineup.
In your head, it is.
I just think in reality,
because
if you go look at the results, I think you would say that Chris Kirk is a much better.
Sure,
play.
but we're 1 week at the Detroit Rocket Mortgage, like at the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit. It's not going to make a difference in reality. Is my point. Yes, Chris Kirk's a better golfer than Adam Svensson. I'm saying you could make arguments for, but I think you could argue Malnati is a much better golfer in reverse than Sung You'll Know.
I mean, they both have 1 PGA Tour win apiece. That's nice.
I like the Malnati setup for here, and I like his history, his course comps and stuff that line up. That's why I brought him up. But
hey, short hitting, great wedges, great at putting. Yeah. I get the Malnati case here. It'd be like if Bo Hossler wasn't in the worst form ever.
I know why you want it. You want to go from Cam Young up to Cantlay. That's where the $600 matters.
That's where it matters to Pat.
I got you.
Because now if I start no Cantlay, I still have $8,300 left. I can fit in Homa pretty easily. And I'm still at $7,800, so I can hit like Henley or Hadwin or Webb or Woodland and then have my God or Rip whatever. And I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I like it. One thing that is interesting is even though we talked about earlier, the most common build, or what we feel right now is a very common build, maybe not the most common, but like the Cantlay 2.8K of those must get their first win at some point guys, is that if you go like Cantlay, Hadwin, Henley, you're building the same way as everyone else. So you could end up on the same 7K guys, but you're so different in the 8K range that you don't have the all chalk build and you still have the same construction because it does make sense, but you end up with making those decisions in the 7K range where it doesn't matter as much because you're already different in the 8K range.
Here are your best players in the field from 5 to 10 feet over the past 24 rounds. You know what? I'm going to make this a larger sample. And I'm going to go to, let's see, where are we at here? Rolling report, select a stat, 5 to 10 feet putting, and just see who's getting better over time, who has been consistently good over time. Because sometimes I think it helps that if someone in the short term that you're looking at is like piss poor, but in the past 100 rounds are like 8th, you're like, no, they'll probably get it back here eventually. Yeah. They're just running cold at the moment. That might actually end up working out. The past 24 rounds, Denny, Homa, Brian Gay, Wyndham Clark, Dewey Van der Waal, Cam Young, Michael Gliglick, Hadley, Cantlay, Aaron Badley, Justin Lower. Can't remember if I played Justin Lower last week. I played the guy who wasn't good. Not the guy who was good, or not was good, but made the cut, whose name like is kind of similar.
I always confuse him and Lee Hodges.
No, I don't. I'm playing Lee Hodges. I bet Lee Hodges.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I play Lee Hodges, so that's why. But Lower was a common. Like, say he was 6,900 last week. Garnett came through. Piercy at the same price. Both those guys were 6,900 last week and came through much better. So,
who is the guy that I'm confusing him with now? This is turning into a. What about Ricky?
What about Ricky?
I feel like this is actually a pretty good Ricky course.
Did you see today they announced that the live guys won't get their points, and now Ricky's into the FedEx Cup.
Oh, here we go.
So this is the first start of the narrative. And then someone posted like the most crazy thing. I didn't back test it or check it, but like something to do with this is his 322nd start. And then they started listing all the shit about that, like how it's like his wife's birthday is March 22nd and all these different factors that led to it leading to this being like a, his week. But yeah, it's tough. I think he's a good play in like large fields. He's been playing better. He can make birdies. It's fine. I'm just saying he's not someone I'm like rushing to get into my lineups.
Jared Wolf with an E is the guy that I get Justin Lower confused with.
Yeah,
Jared Wolf made the cut, and then he shot 81 on Sunday.
Oh, did he? I was going to say, I think it was one of the days, though, he scored really well.
Yeah, he absolutely scores. He was 3 rounds in the 60s until Sunday.
I wonder how he went. Yeah, I was going to say, if you look at like his finishing position versus his DK scoring, I bet you it's a crazy gap because he definitely scored well a couple of those days.
But the other guys that putt really well inside of 10 feet, you got Goddard, Riley, Danny Lee. Svensson's actually been a lot better inside. He's 26th right now. Woodland, Kuchar, Hostler, Redmond. Yeah, didn't Doc Redmond come like second here one year when Doc Redmond used to be good?
Yeah, he's got it. I think that's what it was. I don't have it in front of me, but I know he's got some history and some stuff on course comps and stuff. People brought him up. So maybe, I don't know, but the one thing that stands out to me when you mention it, like the Homa, Cantlay, Hadley, Goddard, even Tom Kim, he made a bunch of 5-footers last week.
Tom Kim, 13th and from that range.
Yeah, I was going to say, so some of those value plays that still have cut equity, decent Vegas odds, and upside to at least score well for you, like this course, man, like it just plays. There's no real trouble. It's just, do you make your putts?
People liked Austin Cook last week.
Yeah.
He missed the cut. He's only $6,400 this week.
Yeah, I liked him at $6,700 last week. But this one, then you start picking your dudes, and much better on Bent, by the way.
Well, this is Bent/Poa mix.
Yeah, really good at the John Deere, really good at the Barbasol, the Canadian Open we talked about. Yeah, he's been playing good. That's why we liked him last week, but I don't know if you...
Former PGA Tour winner, that helps.
Want to run it back? Yeah.
I think I could run it back with him at 64, depending on how crazy I wanted to get at the top. The issue is, I guess you could kind of stack in some 8K guys with it, but if I'm only going to go Cantlay, Homa, and Cam Davis... Like, there's such a drop-off after Cam Davis, or maybe it's Adam Scott where the drop-off is. Like, in terms of the pricing, it goes 99, 97, 93. Like, there's not a lot in the 9K range that if you start, like, leaving out... Like, I have Denny in the pool right now, but I have no Mav, no Thigala, no Davis Riley, no Tringale. Like, that's a big gap to really try to get back up to. So is it really worth me playing the $6,000, $6,400 guy if I don't need... Like, that's where I think that the pricing doesn't matter. I think it does matter from someone like Svensson up to Kirk. I think it does matter from someone from Cameron Young to Patrick Cantlay. I don't think it matters from Adam Hadwin to Matt McNeely.
Okay, I was going to say Kisner to Davis was another one.
Yeah.
Like $600. But yeah, I hear where you're coming from. It's so weird that they keep doing this. Like, they don't have a 10K. They don't have a 98, no 95, no 94, no 9K even. Like, they just, skip that in the pricing. So you do have to make these decisions. But I guess, my takeaway from that would be I worry about it more in the 8K range. But do you think there's a scenario? There's obviously a scenario. This is my feeling, my gut feel, is that everyone's expecting Thigala, Riley, Tringale to have this flop leg. Like there's just no way they could fail 2 weeks in a row. But what if it's the guys in the 7K range? What if it's like your Svenssons, your Steels, your guys down there?
Steele's going to fail or he's going to win.
But that's my point. What if it might end up being those guys that have the true flop leg that you're looking for, and everyone's stuck on it being these 3 guys in the 8K range. With like, there's no way they can have another bad week. But there definitely is a way that they can have another bad week. So
this is true.
That's my point, where I see these rosters keep landing there, where it's not like I hate the build or the construction, but like you said, if you can go to some of the guys we talked about there, Denny McCarthy, Adam Hadwin, Russell Henley, if you can get comfortable with that, that's where I think you could differentiate yourself this week in a big way. And you don't have to worry in the 7K range as much because you're getting your leverage there already.
Guys long-term who are great from 5 to 10 feet, but have not been performing well recently from that range. Martin Trainer, Kelly Craft. I like Craft this week. He's back down to 6,700, so I like Kelly Craft again. Good with he's like Malnati. He's good with a wedge. He can putt. That's essentially all he does. But
Malnati's $100 less.
But I like Craft better.
Okay.
I just like Kelly Craft. This is a good name, Kelly
Craft. It's a cool
Craft.
name. It's definitely a cool name.
Someone I've bet on in the past too. Sung Kang, Cameron Champ. I just added Champ to the player pool. Usually if Champ has a spike week in terms of a result, he usually follows it up with a really good one the next week. Sometimes he wins the next week, and then he goes back to being Cameron Champ again. But he was 16th last week.
Yeah, you're speaking into existence what everyone else is saying the same thing. It's so funny. It's like I think so. It's every time that he's had a win. The week before was like the spike week before a bunch of missed cuts and all that. But it's like a two-time sample size. I think for the 2 of the wins, that's how it happened. He's got 3 wins, but like the other one, not sure how it went. But it's just funny. Like this happened twice, so it's going to happen this week.
Well, even to look back at his Masters performance out of nowhere, I liked him at the Masters because he always plays well at the Masters. His next start in Mexico, he was 6th, and then he went and missed 7 cuts in a row. Now he's back, 16th. Now he was 16th.
He's back. Now he's back. Yeah. He's definitely someone for, again, the price is right for large field tournaments for this type of setup, this course. Everything makes sense on paper. Back to Malnati, 11th at the 3M, 30th at the John Deere, made the cut at the Travelers. I don't know. He's showing something. He gained almost 6 strokes on approach last week, too. So, interesting. 6,600.
Will you go back to Nick Hardy?
Yes. This is a prime example of what I just mentioned. Those guys that I'm saying where he's another one that falls into his 8,000 last week. He's down to 7,300. We loved him last week. Svensson went from 76 to 72. Steele went from 83 to 75. That's like the 3 names right there. What if it's those 3 and not Riley, Thigala, and Mav? Who's the other guy there that I keep talking about? Thigala, Riley,
and Mav McNeely.
And Mav. But Mav came through last week. I shouldn't say that. It's the other 2, Thigala and Riley. Tringali's also getting a little love because he missed last week, and this sets up better for him. Course history here has made 3 straight made cuts of the 3 times they played it with some decent results. So it's those 3. What if it is the 3 7K guys instead, and then you bypass those 8K guys? Because Tringali doesn't even count. He could easily fuck off and never show up again. Riley and Thigala obviously make more sense. I love them as players. I think they're incredible. But Thigala, you talked about it, absolutely horrible from that 5 to 10 putting range. So if that could be a thing, I'm making reasons why it could go.
It just feels like if he's not rolling with his irons, he gets into a lot of trouble. There's big numbers available for old Sahith.
He gets very heated, actually.
I
know there's been a lot of ROM comparisons in his game and coaches mentioning it and things like that. But you saw it last week a couple times. But then it's fun. He bounces back as the jolly dude, super happy, but he's slamming putters and getting doing air swings.
As someone who almost snapped his driver over his knee on the course today, I had to go smash a rake in the woods so I didn't break a $500 club.
Yeah,
played a lot better after I smashed the rake.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Sometimes you need to let it out. This is just some people process emotions differently.
Yeah, and again, there's no bad play there. I still like Riley way more than both Tringali and Thigala if I was looking for a bounce back candidate, just because I think the long term of Riley is so strong, but. And he can be a much better putter. We've seen Riley show up with the putter and be right there. I think he's an interesting play here. If Sam Burns was here, I would like him at this course quite a bit. I know there's some talk of Sanderson Farms is always brought in, Country Club of Jackson. He's got some comparisons to that leaderboard showing up at this course. Sam Burns won that.
Is that...
Riley lost to Burns.
Well, I get into this problem a lot too. Just hey, very similar names. I do think there's a lot to that. Mm-hmm. But is that because both the fields suck?
Maybe. Mind you, some of the shitty names at both places
well,
are
if you
still
like
showing
that, then
up,
you should play Cameron Champ.
Yeah, Cameron Champ does make sense. That is a good reasoning. Some of the other guys, I forget I had it up earlier too. There is other guys that do show up on that. And again, it's just another random comp, but it makes you think of things like that. But Riley, to end it all, can definitely putt just as good as anybody in this field when he's on.
I'm good with being out on him.
Okay.
If he's going to be popular, I don't like him significantly more than anyone else. Like, and that's one thing that did Mark Hubbard just withdraw, like, as we were talking?
No, is he showing up as WD?
He's showing up as out now.
Yeah, that was probably from last week, though.
Is listed in the field.
Yeah, last week he withdrew for what nobody knows the reason. Like, his brother
it says his hand
tweeted it, but he played he played a bunch of weeks beforehand. Remember, they were, his brother was pissed off at Brooks for not WDing right away when he got announced to live.
Yeah.
And then Brooks WD'd and is like, yeah, Hubbard's in now, my brother's in. Like, it's, they were pumped for him because he needs those FedEx Cup points.
I think he got the point.
He got him. He's up to 81st now.
Oh, so he's good.
He's good.
Shout out Nasty Nate. Yeah, Paul.
I will say that nobody is going to play Hubbard because donks like me looked at the DraftKings score or the DraftKings pricing, and I was like, "Oh, he's out." I didn't even do any research. I didn't click his name.
There is stuff to that.
Oh, and the other thing is he's very good, really good on bent grass. If you look, he's gained putting 6 in a row with a 3rd, 13th, 46th, 44th, 52nd, 32nd. Looking pretty strong on paper. And Paul does bring up a good point.
I'm gonna text Nathan. How's your brother's hand?
Did it say hand somewhere though?
That's what it says in the DK thing.
Okay, I never saw that mentioned. That's why I wondered. I thought it was just because for rest he got what he wanted.
No, Hubbard undisclosed.
Yeah. Did you turn undisclosed into hand?
I did. I don't know why I saw that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think it was that.
There we go. So, how's your brother feeling? See if he gets back to me before the end of the show.
I would love that.
Because I would like to play Hubbard if he's fine.
I think you play him either way. I think he's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, is there honestly an honest to God difference between Hubbard and Kirk?
Ownership, massive.
I mean, Hubbard's not unowned, based on these the fantasy national numbers right now. He's 13%.
Yeah.
Like, is a 16% Chris Kirk that much worse?
Anyone who doesn't believe me on Kirk right now will believe me when we get to the weekend.
Okay,
Thursday,
sets
when
the
the
over
numbers
If
come
I
out.
said 17.5, you would take over?
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about Fantasy Golf World Championship.
No, I'm saying that
in the
might be
$20.
35
Yeah.
for Kirk.
That would make sense.
I'm telling you he's going to be over 17.5 for sure on the $20.
As someone who loves Taylor Pendrith, why do people love Taylor Pendrith? I like him because he's Canadian and he bombs it.
Yeah.
Is it the bomber putting narrative that maybe he could have the Bryson week?
Yeah, I like him. Don't get me wrong here, because not just because the bomber putting. I mean, that is part of it for sure. But he's just better than this price tag. People just don't know a lot about him, obviously. But now he's turned into already, even on just Tuesday afternoon, he's turned into the sneaky sleeper play of the week that is very much awake and playing in people's lineups. So you're not sleeping on anything with this guy, unfortunately. So people are talking about him. Good results recently when he came. So remember what happened, right? He had the big injury after crushing it at the Players. The injury lingered. It was unfortunate. The rib, it went on. Then what ends up happening is he's ready to go. We're ready to get in on this guy at low ownership. I had 15% of him that week.
COVID.
Yes. Oh, I like that one, Kobe. He got the COVID positive test. And then the next week, people shied away a little bit, but he came back and still had a good result. I think since it was either, did he play the Cuda or the Barbasol? Which one did he play?
I think he played the Cuda.
I can't remember which one he went to, but he went there and did pretty good.
I don't even know what to make of the Barracuda. Actually, he was 13th at the Barbasol, and he was 11th at the Barracuda.
Yeah.
So he has 3.
What to make of it is courses that you can score on, guys that can score well. I mean, Pendrith definitely fits that. The only thing is it, is it getting out of hand? I should say probably not. Is he going to be 3% like some people sound like they're thinking? No.
No, he's not. He'll be like 9, 10, 11.
9 to 12 is the range I've got him at right now, and we'll go accordingly as the week goes on.
Here's the thing. Like, he sucks with his irons. He's bad.
It's whatever. Again, when you're playing a guy like this, I think you're betting on talent. I said it earlier, and I'm going to stand by it. I'm not sure how far I'm going to run with this. Could be far, but I think Kuchar at 7,500 is at like 5% right now.
I'm with you.
If people catch on, I don't care. The guy can putt. He has the all-around skill set. He's can make the cut, and then you just wonder how weren't you on him by the time Sunday comes around and he's showing up in contention or something.
Yeah,
so,
he just sneaks his way like T6 by Sunday.
Yeah, and people can say what they want, but you've got Steele. People are going back to Champ, Merritt, Tom Kim, Pendrith. Vegas is getting a little love, not much, but some. Gotterup. All those guys are there. They can't all get ownership. So old man Cooch will often get left out being, seen as pretty dusty, and it's been the case. But I think, again, when you put together all the skill sets required for this course, the ability to putt and score well, I think he could show up.
Let's talk about the plays, the best plays. Okay. That is. Obviously, since we were narked out, we can't give an entire lineup out because, people take this show so seriously. Everyone's just mass entering this lineup, which, by the way, is a massive, I'm not all that great at telling what is a positive expected value wager. proposition and a negative one. But if you enter the same lineup as me in a giant contest, it's a real negative EV move. Not just because I made it, but if you gave me a lineup and said, hey, I'm playing this lineup, you should play it too. It sounds like a terrible idea.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what's funny about it. But it's a FOMO factor, right? People are like, oh, what if the one that Pat and Tambo said on the show is the winner this week?
It won't.
I want to
Trust
have
me,
it.
it's not the right one.
I don't remember any time where, someone's giving out the Stone Cold Nuts for $1 million or something. So I don't think it's going to affect you that much. It's interesting to talk about, though, because it starts to give you a feel of what casual players
are going to do.
Exactly.
So, and frankly, when we were building the Play the Best Plays lineup, they were doing really well. They weren't winning tournaments, but they were cashing every week in tournaments, and not just min cashing. They'd be like a top 20%, top 15 percentile lineup.
Yep.
And it's kind of had me rethinking my strategy of how I actually want to play a lot of these tournaments. Like, well, no one else, like, I gave it out, so obviously some people did decide to play it, but like there was nothing crazy about them. I didn't have to go like scumming for like, oh, I need this low owned guy or that low owned guy.
Yeah.
Just naturally, that's just kind of how it turned out.
In some cases, like last week was a tougher one, and we saw it even in the Fantasy Golf World Championship where there were so many dupes and setups because everyone just fell in. The best plays were a lineup. When you have that happen, that makes it, that's how you know the week is going to be more congested when it comes to ownership. And last week there was like 12 guys over 20%. That's because everyone just played the same dudes and they all fit into the builds. But this is interesting to look at because what would you think of this start? And we'll just give the 4. Cantlay, McNeely, Riley, Kirk.
Okay, so the one that I had built, I have 5 of them in. I think it is very similar to that, but it's the other way that we talked about building. It's Cantlay, Homa, Kirk, Goddard, Hadley. And you have $7,300 left for your last guy.
So if I go Hadley in this one, I still have $7,200. But
So
the reason I was
expensive.
bringing this up, because I think it's a good discussion point, is when you build like this, Pat, don't you think people naturally like the bet? Like this now makes me wonder, the 110K guy in Cantlay with 2 8K guys and then a pretty chalk play and a guy like Kirk, you don't really get the other 7K guys you want. So it actually tends to make me think that they either do drop off Cantlay a little bit down to like a Young
Or
something.
the Svensson, those guys are not as owned as you think.
That is another good point. Or they decide on only one of McNeely and Riley. Because if I pull Riley, for example, and say, okay, I'm going to McNeely, Kirk, those plays will be popular at their price point. Now I have an average of 7. I'm only giving 3 now. We can go through it, but I'm saying I only now have 7,500 plus average for 3 spots. There is definitely 3 guys you can fill it out with in that range. We talked about a bunch of them, right? Like Champ, Merritt, Steele, Kuchar, Pendrith, Smalley, Goddard,
Tom Kim.
Oh,
by the way, I am playing Tom Kim again.
Yes.
I'm going to keep playing him until he fails.
How many weeks in a row is it for him?
3? Oh, like overall playing in a row?
Yeah. He was over in Scotland playing.
Scotland Open, 3M. Did he play the Irish before that? I think he did.
Man, this guy's you do OWGR, right? I'll do it.
Let's see, I got it.
Okay.
He has played. He played the U.S. Open, then the Genesis. So he's only played 3 weeks in a row.
Okay, he's good.
Yeah, he's good.
Young buck. He's only 20 years old, man. He can find his way through. Anyway, he impressed me last week. Not only, I know it was a bit of a sweat, and I know he was super high owned, so who cares?
He got there. It was same as Goddard. Goddard has been he had the bad round 1 at Barbasol, and he tried to rally to make the cut. It didn't get there. He had a bad round 1 last week. Rallied to make the cut.
Well, even with Goddard, I know we're switching gears, so I'll go back to Tom Kim in a second, but even with Goddard, it wasn't the Canadian Open. He tried to rally that for us. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, that was a terrible play, blah, blah, blah. And look, but then, ever since, everyone's been on him, and he's treated them pretty well. But back to Tom Kim, he impressed me with, like, the round 2 stuff. He almost chipped in 2 eagles. Like, he beat the number. The number was +1. He got to even. But he almost had 2 chip-ins that were very close and good shots. He really rallied over the weekend, played decent on Sunday. I mean, I thought it was fine either way, and they just did not price him up enough. He's $7,600. But back to my final pointer on this good play the best play stuff, Pat, it does look like 10K, 8K with 4 7s is probably more on people's mind with the plays they actually want to play. Or going back to your previous thought, like you said, going up to Homa, you can still get away with it. You still have 7,200 average, even if you include Kirk. And not everyone's going to play Kirk. I'm just using him as the example because he does look good at 7,800.
The 6K guys that I am settling on at the moment, Sung Yul No at the dead mid, Austin Cook at 64, Kelly Craft at 67, Lee Hodges at 68, and Chesson Hadley at 69 would be the 5 guys in my mass player pool that I think that I want to go to. The good thing about Austin Cook is dude putts, and he is the second best in the field from 100 to 125 yards, where you're going to see a lot of approach shots. That's what I looked at with Pendrith as well. Pendrith bad outside of 100 yards. You get him inside 100 yards, which, as we kind of talked about with Bryson, that you can do this week. Maybe that's the angle for Pendrith here. He just hits it to 68 yards the entire week, and he's good from there.
Yeah. I don't hate it. Like I said, you could find your way around it, but like the Cantlay Homa version brings you up an average of 73.50. The Cantlay Mav version gives you that 7,500. You can just jam all those dudes. Like I'm not gonna say the lineup out loud, but I have the play the best plays lineup, and it's like that's a great lineup actually. Like I'm gonna consider it.
I mean, I think I mentioned it, and I really did want to kind of hammer this home. I really like Alex Smalley this week. $7,400. No one's using him. He is someone that he doesn't necessarily alternate between good and bad putting weeks, but he has good putting weeks and really bad putting weeks. Hopefully you can catch him on a good putting week because everything else kind of tracks for him.
Yeah.
And he's a member at Sedgefield, where it is next week. So he's going to be super popular next week. Get in front of that now. I've done that enough times. But be like, I'm saving this guy. Can't wait for him to be so good here. I'm not going to use him. I'm not going to bet him. It's like, no. I'm going to bet him right now. I'm going to play him right now. If I like him next week, why wouldn't I like him this week?
And just run it back to back. The number's good enough or strong enough that you can do that. Did you say anything on Troy Merritt?
I didn't know where to fall on.
Well, his history here has been very good, right? We know that. I think what is it, like second? Didn't he lost in the playoff last year with Neiman?
There was a playoff last year?
Neiman, Merritt, and
I thought Davis chipped in and that was the end of it. Or did that get him into a playoff?
No, that was I don't know if that got him into the playoff, but I remember, wasn't this the tournament where I think it was where Neiman went bogey free the entire tournament and then lost it in the first hole of the playoff. He was out, and then it went to those two, and then Davis ended up beating Merritt.
Yeah, it was a three-way playoff.
Yeah. Yes. So anyway, I think he had a hole in one. Merritt did as well. He played well, but it's 2 years. I think he has second and eighth are his two strong results here. And like last week, didn't see much, but like he still made it through. What did he end up doing? 69, 70, 72 over the weekend, 14 birdies. Not a lot of, still put up 70 DraftKings points. So on a bad week, coming T49th. So I don't know. He's interesting too at 7,600.
All right, let's get to the chat.
Let's do it.
Try to figure this out. Sorry for the delay. We're an hour in without doing it. So hopefully, if I've answered the question already, maybe I'll just skip that question. What do you think?
Strategy.
We'll see if that works, and then I'll just forget halfway through. I should probably should tweet it out. No, now I forget where that tweet went. I have to go to myself. Fuck it. There's a chat going on, although you know that if you're watching right now. Smash the like if you're here, and sub to Mayo Media Network. Oh, Nate got back to me. Should be good based on recent form. He also went on a podcast and said his first week after the break always sucks, so who the fuck knows? But he's not like hurt.
Right.
So fine. Good enough for me.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
2 questions. What are the pivot plays in the 9KK? This we went through, and Cameron Champ, we went through that. Okay, good. Is Sung Yul No at the flat min a good play? I think it is.
Worth it in the large field stuff. I don't want to put my...
No, you're not playing a cash game with Sung Yul No.
Right.
Stallings or Pendrith? I would take Pendrith there.
I would still take Pendrith there.
A lot of different builds available this week. Is there a certain stack that interests you more than others? AM, PM, distant short game? Not really.
No, I always have some interest in the weather one because it can go your way, but it's not because it's not a weather week. I just like it because it makes you naturally different.
Thanks for running the best tournament on DraftKings every single week. Thank you, Mike, for tuning in and saying that. It means a lot to me. Play in the league if you haven't already, by the way. The link is down in the description. More likely to give Pat a stroke, Tambo? Jeff or Cust?
So I haven't fully listened to it yet, but it's seemingly turning into Jeff. Saw today you talked about the what do you call it? The couple?
Yeah, like
married couple, the show.
The issue is Jeff doesn't actually listen to anything that I say. He just builds stuff. He's like a volcano. He's ready, but he doesn't listen to what I say. So the moment it gets to the top, he has to say whatever is on his mind.
It's sometimes too he forgets something and he wants to make sure he gets his point out there, but you're ready to move on, and as the host, you're still transitioning. And there's nothing worse than that when someone cuts you off when you're about to go.
That's right.
See, exactly. It's the worst feeling, and I have it done to me all the time, so I know where you're coming from.
You guys rock. Smash the like. Okay, I like it, John. I'm thinking of fading 88 to 8,100. Who would you play between Keegan, Kisner, and Denny, or use all three? I think I'm with you. I like Denny.
I like Denny. I thought we talked about that, and I thought it was a good angle. It may not be right, but I like the idea of it.
If you were to play an outright at the top of the board, who would you play? I bet Max Homa, so Max Homa it is. And that's odds-based. Like, I think the Cantlay has the best chance of winning, but he is, 8-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook?
I bet Scott at 33. Just in case. I like that. I've been high on this for a long time, the strength of field factor. But, he's in. What is he even doing here? Like, seriously, why are you showing up to this tournament?
Does he need to get into the FedEx Cup?
I didn't look, but, I highly check it. I highly doubt it, but
I mean,
it's always to stack FedEx Cup points, maybe
what is
to
he
level up. But I meant more like long term. Like, isn't he, supposedly going to live with that team with Cam Smith eventually? Like, I don't know. We'll have to wait on all the rumors. But the point is, like, obviously he's trying to level up, but like, I just don't get why. So he always just plugs one of these in at the end. Like, why not go back to the Wyndham next week? Maybe he's in. I don't know.
He almost won the Wyndham a year ago, but he's 77th in the FedEx Cup right now.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to live, and we don't know if he is or not, then you would have to think that money is very important to him. So you might as well get your one last run at the FedEx Cup.
Might as well double dip anyway, for sure.
He's behind fucking Trey Mullinax in the FedEx Cup.
You like Trey Mullinax this week?
Is he in the field?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He did win. Did he make the cut at the Open?
He's been doing some things. He definitely pops. That's why I asked you, but I don't know how many people will play him here. I think he's like 70, maybe 7,000 even this week.
That's too much. Rather play James Hahn.
7,000 this week, yeah. James Hahn, he's going to run it back, is he?
I'm going back to him. I'll use him. He's 7,000.
Yeah. Did you watch him on Sunday? No. Nobody must have been very silent. Nobody eating chips at that course because this guy couldn't miss. He was making everything chip eagles, putts from downtown. There was no chips to be had in that scene. That's for sure.
That was one of the questions. Any interest in James Hahn? I do. I bet him to win, so obviously I have interest. Do you think Hubbard's form and stats carry over? Okay,
we're solving them. This is good.
We answered a lot of these. This is good. Someone's wishing you luck and hope you take down the Fantasy Golf World Championship.
Thank you very much.
Is Paul playing Keegan? No is the answer to that. Kuchar, Hardy, Harris, English. Rank those three.
That order for me, actually. Kuchar, Hardy, English. English is interesting. We didn't talk about him. He's at, 7,300 this week? But it's a lot of ifs. And that's good if you want to play. Everyone say, I want that. But there is other leverage plays and different constructions, all the stuff we talked about. So for me, it's definitely the order that they said. Hardy coming in second.
What are your thoughts on Callum Tarrant? I'm off.
I bet him at 140, and he's dropped since then. And I feel better about that than playing him at, what is he, 7,100? So, yeah, I definitely like him better as the bet than I did as playing him with ownership.
Stallings or Tom Kim? I like Tom Kim.
I don't know why I don't like Stallings as much. I don't know why everyone else likes Stallings. Maybe
he's on
a better way to put that.
He's on a great run right now. He's 3 top 10s in his past 5 starts.
For sure, but is that it?
Yeah.
He's Scott Stallings still.
I mean, if he's on the gear again, then he's probably pretty good.
He always looks like he's on the gear lately. He looks...
Well, that's the thing. That's something that one of my friends did tell me. That, they did their cycle of steroids when they were like 22, 23, and it gave them like a new body type. Mm-hmm. Like they were able to put on so much mass, and they haven't done it in 15 years, but they still retain that like bigger, bulky build. So maybe that's the move.
Stallings is jacked.
Just do the one
especially
cycle.
When you compare what he used to look like to now, it's just that, is that what's doing it? I don't know.
Well, he was suspended for doing steroids.
Magic powers. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, saying like, is that why? Maybe that's what's helping the good run. Who knows?
Kadira, Landry, and Gachowski. I'm going to pass on all 3 of those guys.
Gutsy, if you do any of them, I would, but I'm not interested.
I watched a weird amount of his round on Friday, and he had those green speeds figured out in Minnesota. That's not going to happen every
I was just going to say, it's going to be different this week, too, for that, but I just, when you talk about having the most recent form and the guy that
I would actually play Kadira if I was forced to play one. Like, just give me the wedge guy.
Yeah, sure.
Any thoughts on Straka? You seem to like him.
I thought it was interesting. Yeah, he did pop. The course history popped for sure. Other than that, not much else. But when you go down to that range, like I said, if you are going to play guys in there, there's just not a lot that will, you're taking a risk on a lot of others. At least he has something to go off of with the course history because he does not have recent form. And I prefer that, so I'm not hugely interested.
I like Whaley as a 6K play. Do you like him?
No.
I do not either. Anybody you're fading based on ownership, and what level of ownership do you usually draw the line? I think it's tournament dependent, to tell you the truth. Like, is all the chalk congregating to the same 6 guys? A lot like last week. Like, I think that trying to fade chalk last week versus in a regular week, I think it was easier to fade the chalk last week because all the guys who were chalky sucked.
Well, shit,
like, they weren't good players.
Stuff we talked about came true. Gim greater than Kim was a joke at the same price, but he was like 1/10 of his ownership, and he smashed him. Yeah. Kim crushed last week at the same price as Kim. Even though you could have played them both together was the answer, kind of like what I talked about earlier. But to answer the question, it's literally dependent. It's totally separate every week. People think that like Cantlay is bad chalk because he's 24%. That's a fine number. He's obviously going to get to 20 no matter what. It's you got to decide how you build the rest of your lineup out. It's just, that's what it always comes down to. People just want to say anyone with ownership is bad. It's not true.
Well, when we talked it through last week, I played 50 lineups. I think Finau was in 48 of them. I didn't win money. So that's how my other picks went. But that seemed like good chalk. Like, he's just way better than everyone here.
Yep.
Unless you want to go with Hideki, but that was my downfall. Because I was like, well, Hideki and Finau are way better than everyone else. They seem cheaper than they should be, and they're not going to be 40% owned. Like, that's the one thing that you run, and why I think that's you and other good high-stakes players and mass multi-entry players do it well is you'll look at it. It's like, hey, until this ownership is still good.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. I do that somewhat, but like your example there was perfect of the Finau situation last week. The best players looked at it and said, I don't care. Finau's still good. How can I get different with Finau? Everyone else is going Finau drop down to the range when they said, I can actually play Finau and Im together. No one's doing that. Im's coming in much lower owned, and then I can get away with playing some of those same guys that people are playing in the balanced build. What happened with the balanced builds? The Finau balanced ones I'm talking about, like the more spread out with the top guy, is the guys in the 9K and the 8K range busted, and everyone was crushed, but the Finau and Im's destroyed, and there was a lot of 7K guys.
Top 80 in the race for the Mayo Cup, thanks to your help last week with Sungjae. I mean, we were all over it. We just didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I used him in this lineup to move on. I used my anchor. I used him at the top. So I love Sungjae last week. I definitely played Hideki in large field tournaments as well. I didn't like the ownership on that, but I didn't think of it good enough. I had some Finau M lineups, but I didn't move quickly enough to get as many of those as I should have.
Same question for this week. Would you go with Cam Young or a little bit more risky with Thigala or Kisner? Well, Cam Young is Anderkirst, so that's tough. Although, there it is. Was that your follow-up, Paul?
Yeah, that's mankind.
Is that mankind?
Mankind jumping off of the top of the fence through a table.
I think I'd still go Cam Young over Thigala or Kisner.
It's probably that order. It's Young, Thigala, Kisner. But Kisner, if he shows up with his putter this week, could crush. So I get why people are mentioning him.
Does Cam Young finally take it down this week? I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no.
How many Kims are acceptable in a single lineup? Siwoo, Tom. Michael Kim is not playing. We Siwoo and Tom Kim.
Is that it?
I don't know. Thoughts on Sig? He has a win last year at a Donald Ross course at the Knoxville Open. See, there's some good information from the chat. Sig played well last week, didn't he?
Yeah, he played really well.
What do you think? Yes, Paul.
I'm gonna ban a guy that you didn't ban last week.
Nice.
Oh, am I there yet?
Do you want to just let him continue to?
No, don't. Because it will make me mad.
Do you want me to just ban him?
Yeah, listen, I think the show works better if you just ban these people before I get there. And then I don't need to get mad. And then end the show. And then I can answer more questions.
Could I just say something?
You're gone, Bilal. You should have been gone last week.
I was just going to say, as an outsider looking in, that I would have left it because I think it's funny when Pat finds them and gets pissed off, and then we don't have to cancel the show. We can keep it going for a little bit longer. But
it affects my mood.
Okay. I don't want to do that, definitely. I'm just saying it has been pretty good bits when you've been able to find these in the chat and just find them randomly. So I don't hate it, Paul. Thank you.
Who do you like at the live course where he did that? So Sig, you're going to play Sig?
I don't love him as much as the rest do. Like, I think, again, just to give you some idea down there, I would take in large field tournaments a shot on Luke List because he pops in the stats. I would take a shot on Patrick Rogers, who we talked a little bit about earlier. I would also look at guys like I talked about. Mullinex is there. Who else do we talk? Adam Schenk is there at 7,000. I've got more interest in those guys if I'm going to just take a shot on someone anyway versus what Sig did last week, which to me felt like he just poured in every single putt. I'll have to look it up, but he's getting some steam right now, too, because of that.
It was all over Hahn this week until Pat mushed him, unfortunately. Oh, you're calling me Anderkirst? You're banned for life, pal. You know not to do that. See you later. You can go fuck yourself. Top 100 in the race for the Mayo Cup. Better strategy. Okay, I don't care about your fucking one-and-done questions. There's 3 tournaments left. There's only so many guys that you have left. Play the guys no one else has if you're trying to catch up. If they have the same guys as you, use the popular guys. There's your strategy. It's pretty easy. Out of all those from Team No Putt, who do you like the best here? I don't. That's why I am not using Team No Putt guys this week.
Yeah. So we talked about it a lot. There's, Zalatoris, the best talent that hasn't won, that is pretty much team no putt in any non-major event.
Yeah.
He's probably your guy.
Out of all, did that one. Rank these 4. Wyndham Clark or Grayson Sigg, Goddard or Taryn. I like Goddard the best.
Goddard and Clark are my 2 favorite. I don't care about the other 2.
Yeah, I like Sigg better than Taryn, but
I do like Sigg better than Taryn, so if you want to...
Why does Adam Scott keep popping up in my models? Probably because you put in things that really relate to Adam Scott, I'm guessing. Things he does well and did not include things he does not do well. That would be my guess. Why don't you look at what you put in? Oh, my God.
Yeah,
See, just even the mention of a guy.
See, we didn't even have to get to the bands.
That's true. That is the good part about it.
For the bands to happen and for his blood to start boiling.
Yeah. Paul's on top of it. He's right. If this was a double down on the previous one, we'd really be in trouble. But I think we can get past this.
What was the other guy doing?
He was like making up nicknames for people
In the chat?
Or
yeah,
golfers.
I mean, last week he was like part of the. I don't know how he didn't get banned. I think it's like
New
banned
account?
his buddy, but it was like those 2 guys that were like going back and forth conversing, and then we were like, oh, once we get rid of these 2 guys, maybe he made another account, but it's the exact same name, Bilal Salam. He, he's just like answering people's questions,
He'll
not
be
following
back.
the format of the chat. It's quite clear.
Don't do that. Smash a like while you're here, by the way. You guys buy in Willie Z narrative that he's not a good fit because it's a birdie contest? I don't think it's a narrative. I think that's proved itself out, hasn't it?
Yeah. It really, I mean, again, people bring up like the American Express and some of the other events that he did show up at. It's like, again, if he finds the putter, he can show up. But the problem, like, you pay for this too. You pay $10,400 to find
It's
that.
not free.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It comes with it. If you go back to those tournaments, it was when he was much less in price. You could get him at like $8,400, and he doesn't have to be your first guy into your lineup. If you're going Willie Z this week, unless you're going like extremely aggressive with a Cantlay Willie Z lineup and trying to do the Finau Im thing, then then it's tougher to get behind for sure. But I could see going from that route and try and be a repeat of last week.
How popular will a Cam Young, Cam Davis start be? I don't think it's going to be all that popular. It'll be Cam Young, Homa, or it'll be Cantlay with one of those guys.
Yeah, can you fit them all? Can you put Tringali, Champ, get all those?
Get all
other
the
guys?
Cams in?
Yeah,
Maybe. That might work. When you're looking at the bottom...
Percy.
What?
Percy?
is
Sorry,
Per-
I just pulled the Jeff Feinberg.
Is
Cam Percy, he's in the field too. He played well last week, so you
Well,
might be
he
able
had
to-
his one good tournament, so he's going to be like off the radar now for like the next 3 months. That's what
Yeah.
he does. Tambo, can you explain how you develop your own ownership projections?
Just basically from doing it for a long time, but I take it from like 3 or 4 different sources, put it all together, try and adjust for the stakes, and then, it has to add up. Like that's the other thing too, right? You have to go through, be able to make sure it makes sense. And then you're not always going to be right, but it just gives me a better idea of where I can find leverage on the field. So proprietary to me, like that's pretty much all it is.
When you're looking at the bottom of the 6K range, at what point do you value talent of an underpriced value versus the ownership fade, like Cole Hammer versus Sunja Noah? Is that a real person?
Sung You'll Know. They're talking about Sung You'll Know, I'm assuming, because Hammer went down to like,
You'll know.
people liked him last week. He was 6,200. He was 65. Now he's down to 62. Sung Kang and Sung You'll Know are both there. I'm assuming he means Sung You'll Know. So what was the question?
Like, how do you at what point do you value the talent of an underpriced value versus the ownership fade type guy? I don't think you need, like, none of these guys.
You don't even have to consider ownership with those guys. So
like, who do you like better?
that matters more at like the 8K range, because
What?
we're about to stumble upon something.
I just I think it's a joke, but it's a hilarious name.
Okay.
It's the burner account came back. I was saying it matters more in like the 8K range, where then you have to evaluate like a Davis Riley versus, let's say, Tringali, who has the history here. He's been in the game longer, but now you got Riley as an up-and-coming talent. The books won't value Riley as much because nobody really knows who he is outside of our bubble. And yes, people watching the show are like, you're crazy. We all know who he is. That's not true in the public. That's why you never see his number get adjusted that much in fields. But that's where you have to kind of balance it and decide who's the better leverage play. It doesn't matter when there's no ownership on the guy at 6K and 6,200.
Hey, Pat, are you going over the field with your C? Woo! Probably not this week. I think I like Woodland more. Also, have a nice vacation. Thank you, Samuel.
I kind of like Siwoo. I want to see how he rates out. But now, again, thinking of construction that's just a little bit different, a lot of people are landing in 7,800 to 7,200. Not many are going up to Siwoo your Woodland calls good in the 8K range. Henley, Hubbard, all those guys there. Hubbard will get a little, but you know what I mean. They're not playing that range right above Kirk for $100 more.
I think that answers the next question as well. What's the price range that's getting overlooked? I think it's that low 8,000s.
Yeah. Even Hadwin will get some, but it's like Simpson, Henley, Woodland, Hubbard, Siwoo. Boom. There's your 5 guys.
Is short iron play within the Force this week? Star Wars reference.
I don't know.
Is that a bannable offense?
No, people love Star Wars. I don't care. And like, you probably go on Twitter and type, May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, it's not May.
Yeah, whatever it is. We're not doing that.
Front 9 or back 9 start for Showdown?
No, they want to know because of last week. Last week it actually worked out. You want to know what's so actually funny? Side note, because we talked about at the top of the show, the lineup that got through for me was a all AM back 9 starting lineup, purposely, that I put in, that we talked about. Remember, there was more scoring on the back 9 and no wind, and then they would get no wind on Friday afternoon with the same back 9. That ended up getting me through.
There doesn't seem, I'm just looking at the core setup right now, there doesn't seem to be any discernible difference between the front and back in terms of making that turn. Like, number 9 is the 4th hardest hole, number 11 is the hardest hole. So there goes your entire game. And number 18 is the 2nd hardest hole.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was stacked last week where 17, 18, and 1 were kind of easy versus the rest of them. So if you're trying to get a birdie streak on the go, it's likely.
Good question, but it's not something that's going to happen every week. It was something that played off the course last week and off the weather in some way, shape last week.
Mullinex or Lebiota? I like Lebiota.
Mullinex for me. Hank did his stuff last week.
Hank's good, though.
He is good.
Gim Reaper, worth a flyer this week, or is he an auto fade on Sundays when in contention? I mean, if Gim can get into Sunday contention, I think you're fine with whatever he finishes at that point.
You just told me he's getting into contention on Sunday, which is a made cut and in contention. Definitely worth a flyer if you think that's even possible. Forget if he doesn't come through in the end.
Will Riley's ownership be lower this week due to his missed cut at the 3M? I think it'll be lower than it was last week, but not like low.
Yeah, and also they adjusted the price. It's $400 less, so some of that goes into it where the ownership can still end up very similar.
Thoughts on Mackenzie Hughes?
Interesting, because we talked earlier about like the McCarthy aspect of it. Like Mackenzie Hughes might not putt well this week, but it might still be good enough. Because when he's on, he's very on. When he's not, maybe it's still better than some of the guys around him. Also, what's his price? 72? 73. And he fits right. He's under the range we talked about earlier. So we talked about Siwoo up to Simpson, even Hadwin a little bit. When you go down here, everyone wants Hardy, Pan, Goddard, all those guys above him. We named all the other ones. I'm just saying, if you go to 73 and below, maybe Svensson, people will go back to him and forgive him. But, Mackenzie Hughes, not much. Clark, a little off of last week. Gim, a little off of last week. List, probably none, right? You've got all these guys that people just aren't willing to go to there. Sig gets some, Taryn, but not all of them. So that range also is going a little overlooked.
This guy is talking about Chris Nagel's stepdad.
What's the narrative? Chris Nagel's the guy we talked about.
Yeah.
Monday Q
His stepdad
specialist.
Bill said his new Ping driver is nails and plans to. It sounds like he just want to suck the fucking cock of Ping drivers, pal. Fuck off. I don't give a shit about this. Imagine thinking I care about what
Chris Nagel's stepdad.
Imagine.
Holy, this is going off the rails quick, man.
Chasing FedEx Cup points, Pat. You've said it before that you don't buy the narrative, but Harris English gets an injury pass, doesn't he? He might still be injured for all I know because he's not playing well.
But to that point, the funny thing is this week, like last week was a prime example, a bunch of dudes that were on the bubble ended up doing well, but people forget that a bunch of people fell out too and played bad last week. So it's always like 1 for 1. They're all on the bubble for a reason. Some will end up getting in, some will get. Everybody in the Fantasy Golf World Championship, theme of the show, wants to get into the top 40 this week. There's motivation for all of us. Only 40 of us will get in. 110 will not. So you can play that. He's motivated though. We're all motivated. All these guys are motivated.
Yeah, they weren't motivated earlier in the year. That didn't matter then.
Yes.
You need to do it now.
Exactly.
Lee Hodges did very well for me. Thoughts of going back to him? I bet him, and I'm going back to him, so I'm in. Thoughts on the Todd father? Pass.
Oh, is he in this?
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe he withdrew.
He must have. Yeah, I was gonna say he got me through last week. He was in that build that we talked about. So no, he's not here.
Al Smiz gave out his $1 million lineup a few years back. I don't think that he did because he was on my show that week that he won the Millionaire Maker. I think it was like 2017 or 2018.
There was something. I actually think it might have been a showdown. Now that I'm remembering
okay.
it, I think he gave out a showdown
Well, then it
lineup that ended up
then it didn't win $1
chopping.
million. I
It
can
did
tell
not
you
win
that
$1
much.
million, but it was still decent, actually. They
I'm
are
sure.
right. I forgot about that. That is one time that it happened, I believe.
When he won the Millionaire Maker, it was the Benjamin Stack, Kelvin, and Travis, I want to say.
I forget that far back.
I was still working at Fantasy at the time.
was a while ago now.
That's how long ago that was. And he only won because he did the late swap, either
Diggs
onto Lacey or Lacey onto Diggs.
It was on to Diggs.
It was on to Diggs.
The great American hero, Stephon Diggs, as he put it.
McNeely playing his 6th week in a row, going from Scotland all around the States. His past 2 events, he's been blowing it late on Sundays. Fatigue is worrisome at all?
Yes. I would say yes. Not because it's just that. Like, fatigue's another silly argument at times, but I will say when you can, I don't like fading just for ownership reasons, but I'm saying when you can stack on more factors, right? Is there other plays there? Yes, we talked about McCarthy. Is McNeely going to be very high owned and in a lot of the common constructions? Yes. Could there be fatigue? Yes. Has he closed anything yet? No. Like, you can put all that together and say a reason why that may not be the play outside of a play the best plays, but there's a lot of ways to get unique and avoid it as well.
Tambo, which tee to green golfers may look to have an advantage? All right, buddy, you got to stop asking questions. I'm glad you wish me a very happy vacation. But you've asked like 13 questions now, and none of them are really any good. So that's tough. Tough scene for you.
Oh, man.
In the low 7s, how would you rank Damon, Clark, Svensson, and Hardy? Clark and Hardy.
Yeah, same for me. Actually, I like both those guys more than the others. Damon, I don't know why he pops a little bit, but I like the other guys better for sure.
Favorite bet, 100-1 or longer. Goddard's 100-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. I just can't bet there because it's not available where I live. So I had to bet him at 75. So if you can bet him at 100, that's better.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I only have one right now, and it's Taryn 140. I think he's 100 at most places now, so I'd say that. But I don't even love it. I just bet it because I knew the number was going to drop huge.
Any interest in Smotherman, Roger Sloan, or Ryan Armour?
Smotherman.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind Smotherman. We've been waiting for him to pop just as much as some of these other dudes, so I got no problem with that.
Bro Knurr has great form coming in. Oh, this is the guy who asked the fucking stepdad question. This guy's the worst. I hate you.
That was what I was laughing at.
Fucking hate you.
That's what I was laughing at. It's Bonaire. Bonaire?
Oh, okay, I see.
That's why I was giggling like a little school kid.
Got him.
He's banned for life, so
Yeah, you're done.
that guy can go fuck off. He can go back to sucking the cock of that ping driver. What's the upcoming NFL schedule? Same as it always is. It's almost an NFL season.
Yeah. Maybe they're asking for your shows. Full schedule.
I don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
I know the in-season schedule. I don't know about Sunday, Monday yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. But Cuss and I and Jeff are starting recording next week. So that'll be every week through the Super Bowl. So we'll have some fun stuff to do. We'll do a DraftKings breakdown show.
Yeah.
Here's how you can win on DraftKings. Because you've done that before.
Yes.
I haven't. So
I think we're going to do some shows, too, for in studio.
let's see. Why is Thor Bjornsson not on the board at DraftKings? Afraid of the liability that he gains? Okay, these aren't real
Afraid of the liability. Oh, man. These are funny questions, not good ones. Afraid of the liability. Thor Bjornsson.
We'll end with this. Who's the most mispriced golfer of the week?
Ooh.
It's probably Tom Kim. I mean, if you sort just by, and this isn't necessarily the greatest way to do anything.
I think it's Kirk. I think Kirk is last week's Tom Kim, and it may be the same result. It may be like a made cut and does enough for you to make it through or whatever it does for you, but maybe not on the winning lineup or something like that. So it makes sense from that perspective as well. But he feels pretty underpriced here when you think about it at 7,800.
Let's see. Svensson, Kitayama gained the most DraftKings points per their price over the past 24 rounds.
If you look at it that way, I definitely could see it differently.
Goddard.
I think more about skill for their range. Like, for example, Kirk at 78 could have been 84.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have changed my mind. Riley at 86 could have been 92 here instead of Keegan Bradley. Would not have been shocked by that personally. So it just depends on how you look at it. That's how I would say it.
All right, that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. You'll be back Wednesday night on runpuresports.com. Big T going to be on the show? You guys giving away the goods or what?
We are. We did it last week. That's how we got to the lineups we did. He ended up getting 3 of his 4 seats through, so he's got a lot on the line this week. I've got the 1 seat, so we'll be back talking our strategy for that, going through exposures. We'll talk more on it's kind of cool that we did this on Tuesday this week. I know you're going away, but we'll get even more information now in the 24 hours than the usual hour and a half to 2 hours I get in between shows. So it should be good. I think it'll be a good show, and then be back on Thursday night as well.
On Mayo Media Network.
That's right.
Showdown shows. The Listeners League is full as of right now, so thank you for filling that. Go to the Fantasy Golf Degenerates on Mayo Media Network. You should sub to the podcast as well, and you can find their Listeners League, and you should go fill that right now, too. Not no rake, but reduce rake?
Reduced rake, yeah. It's only around 10% or so it's not bad.
There we go. I'm probably going to play Siwoo. Now that I'm thinking
I think
about
you
it.
should. I actually like him, and I think it's going to differentiate you either way. And when you go back to our play the best plays lineups, he fit some of those builds where people will be more scared to go to that and play a high-low than just plug in those two guys in the middle at 7,500 like we talked about.
That tracks. Tomorrow, Jake Seeley is on the show, finishing off the running back rankings. So you can check out the entire football draft kit in that show. And then on Thursday, there's a Cuss Corner coming out. So please download, rate, and review, smash the like, join the newsletter, all that fun stuff. Until then, I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.